Maha, you somehow decided to become a doctor and an emergency physician in particular. Tell me about how that came to be.
Becoming a doctor was fairly simple because it gave me a chance to meld two of my interests, which was one, helping people, and two, medicine and science. And then becoming an emergency physician along the same lines. In medical school, you go through all these different rotations and you say, I like this and I like that. And for me, I liked all the specialties, and to have to just choose one was really difficult, and emergency medicine allowed me to marry all of them, and the most exciting aspect of taking care of patients as well.
Most exciting. So.
Most exciting meaning emergencies in medicine or surgery or obstetrics are exciting, where you have to sort of think on your feet to take care of a patient, and so the chance to do that day in and day out as an emergency physician was very attractive, and what attracted me to that specialty.
So you haven't run out of energy yet, it would appear.
I'm trying not to. No, it's one of those things where if you still love what you're doing years after starting, which I still do, then it was the right choice back then, and I would still make the same decision today.
Well, and you wear a lot of hats here at Stanford. You are a professor of medicine. You are an author because you've authored and edited many books on emergency medicine. And you are practicing, right? I mean, there are times when you are in the ER helping people frontline, I presume.
Absolutely, and that's one of the great things about what I've been able to do here at Stanford is you can wear many hats. So you can teach in a classroom, you can teach in the actual clinical setting in the emergency department, you can take care of patients, which is what we all go into medicine for and what we love to do. Oftentimes I've taken care of family members, neighbors, people that live here in Palo Alto, as well as most people that I've never met before who come to the emergency department having the worst day of their life, looking for help. And so it is great, and to incorporate other interests as well, like writing, so having a chance to edit a textbook, and so that's a wonderful thing about my career here at Stanford, is all those different facets.
Well, and two more. One is that you are doing research as well, kind of mixed in along the way, or have, and then being kind of a consultant around the world to other countries who don't have emergency medical services, getting that started. So can you talk a little bit about maybe those last couple things?
Sure.
And how that came to happen, and how Stanford sees your role in that, or how that dance works, because you've got a lot of balls in the air.
Yeah, with regard to the research, the way that we advance medical care is to examine what we're doing, or to examine things that we might introduce and see if they benefit patients. And so from the research perspective, it's a natural outcropping of what we do day in and day out in the clinical arena. But what we've chose to focus, or I've chosen to focus my research on, has been on the work that we're doing internationally, and how we can help those that don't live here in this country, yet suffer the same kinds of emergencies as people in the United States.
So you were born in the U.S.
Born in Oakland, California.
Born in Oakland. But the project through SEMI, Stanford Emergency Medical International?
Medicine right? International, yes.
The first project was in India, is in India.
Yeah,
tell me about that.
Our flagship project, so to speak, is one where we're partnering with GVK EMRI, which stands for the Emergency Management and Research Institute, which back in 2005 was just starting the very first centralized ambulance service in India, and at that time, in August of 2005, cared for 0 patients. Today, as we speak, the service now cares for over 400 million patients in India, making it the largest provider of pre-hospital care in the world.
Wow. So what inspired you to do that? Like, what seed was planted that you wanted to do that and that you helped to make that happen?
I'd like to think it's because I was special in some way, but really I think it was just good fortune. The proprietors, the initiators of this initiative happened to come to Stanford and wanted to meet with me, and after that chance meeting, decided they'd like to have myself and Stanford involved in their project long-term, and that was the beginning of a relationship where we've taken on many different roles: mentor, teacher, advisor, to their project that now cares for, as I mentioned, over 400 million people and saves thousands of lives every day.
So there was no ambulance service available. You could not call, as we do here, 911. Just give
Sure.
a vignette of what might happen now that would not have happened before 2005.
Back in 2005, if you were in a large city and you could remember the number that could be 9 or 10 digits of the hospital where an ambulance might be based, you could potentially get ambulance service. However, oftentimes between cities where accidents occur, there was no ambulance service, and so many people who had survivable injuries would perish as a result of not having access to emergency care.
So now?
And now, by dialing the number 108 in 12 different states, you have ready access to a skilled pre-hospital care provider, an ambulance, and they can take you to the nearest emergency department to, in many cases, save your life.
So why 108? Any significance there?
It has significance, I believe, in numerous religions. The number 108, I believe, in Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, Buddhism, and so the founders decided to choose that particular number, 108.
And how does Stanford feel about this involvement? I mean, what happens here that? What's the synergy?
Stanford, as a university and as a medical school, is committed to the advancement of medical education, not only in the U.S., but worldwide. And so they have been incredibly supportive of my efforts, of our department's efforts to reach across the world and to better the lives of those people that we may not even meet on a day-to-day basis.
And presumably there are educational opportunities for students, medical students, and
absolutely
along the way.
Absolutely. And I can say to date we have sent over 100 attending physicians, fellows, medical residents, emergency medicine residents, and medical students overseas to participate in our projects, in our meaningful projects that have advanced emergency care across the world.
You've had a flooding of people from different countries. The heads of the medical.
Yes, no, absolutely. One of the most exciting things now is when you wake up in the morning and you check your email, you never know where the mails are going to be coming from. And so to date, I have had opportunities to visit and work in countries as far away as China, India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Jordan, Lebanon most recently, northern Iraq, Egypt, and Ethiopia, and so and we'll in the near future be going to Saudi Arabia and Zimbabwe, and so it's quite exciting to figure out where that country is on the map, but also realize that we have a responsibility and to these countries, and that in some small way, I liken it to what we do in the emergency department. We can improve the time that it takes to get a patient into the department by 1 or 2 minutes, and that may save a few patients every year just because we're so good at what we do at this time. But making the same small improvements in another country can save thousands of people. And so that's where we can take what we've learned here at Stanford in the United States and in many ways translate it to other countries to save many, many more lives.
Sounds like it's catching on around the world. Word's getting around.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, we're receiving numerous opportunities to partner with ministries and other medical organizations across the world.
That's going to be a challenge, I would think. I mean, because
it takes a lot of time.
These are countries where the profession of paramedic or EMT is not something that they've even.
Interestingly, emergency medicine itself is younger than I am, and the profession of paramedic and EMT is actually younger, and that's true in many parts of the world where these programs don't exist. So it's not like they're that far behind, considering that EMS and emergency medicine has only been around for about 40 years.
In this country?
In this country.
Which started out as a nonprofit?
In the United States, the two things that really drove the development of emergency medicine and emergency medical services in the U.S. were that automobiles got faster, and so people started to crash, and we realized that there was an opportunity to save them, and people were dying as a result of heart attacks and what we call dysrhythmias, fatal dysrhythmias, and we've learned that if you could shock somebody early, you could save their lives. And so getting someone to the household or to the scene of the accident became more important, and having that physician's reach extend to those two locations was really what drove the development of emergency medical services in this country.
So Stanford obviously has just gotten the approval to expand, and construction is happening now, right? What, in that context or in general, do you wish people knew? What do you wish people in Palo Alto knew about what it's like to run an emergency department, or what, as a patient or potential patient, what do you wish they knew?
Sure.
Tell everybody something.
That, believe it or not, in their own backyard is one of the finest hospitals in the country and one of the most dedicated team of professionals in terms of providing emergency care in the country. And though our actual physical plant may not be pretty at this time because we're waiting for the new hospital to be built, the people that actually work there day in, day out, the physicians, the nurses, the technicians, are very dedicated. They're very qualified, and in many cases, they're world-renowned.
But hopefully people will not land in the ER.
Nobody wants to land in the ER.
Is there anything you would change if you could click your heels and have something, like one thing that could really be a leverage point in making what you do more effective? What would that be?
Yeah, in terms of what we do, honestly, we're limited by space. I think is the most difficult challenge. There's nothing that drives me crazier than seeing somebody wait for a bed in the hospital, and so we've done everything that we can. And when I talk about space, it's not just in the emergency department, but in the hospital, having hospital beds. And I think this is a problem that we face across the country. So just having physical space, enough rooms in emergency departments and in hospitals to care for all the patients that need medical care, I think is the one thing. If I could change anything, just providing that space would be what I would do.
Well, good, it's on the way. And you, as a teacher, as a professor of medicine, what do you hope, especially as medicine is evolving, the medical system and the profession, what do you think is most important to impart to them? Obviously, there's lots of knowledge, but what sort of spirit or attitude or approach do you hope they come out?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we all learn the X's and O's. We all learn the science of medicine, but I think what really differentiates good physicians from pretty good physicians is their ability to relate to other individuals. And I think if there's anything that we can teach our young doctors, it is how to relate to their patients and how to understand that what we do on a day in and day out basis is truly a privilege. It's not a right, and that our patients are smart and wonderful people. And we have to figure out, especially patients that are elderly and who may have something very interesting about them that we may not have time to get to because we're so busy with taking care of the medical problem. But I think if you look at someone as a whole, as not just a medical problem, but also as a person, I think they appreciate it, and I think you feel better at the end of the day as well.
I was reading a New York Times article recently about the admissions process as sort of a speed dating exercise, because you need to size up situations and people and work collaboratively. The whole notion of it's a team sport, really, being a doctor.
Absolutely, and being an emergency physician is kind of like being an air traffic controller as well. You're trying to make sure the planes land without crashing and accommodate new traffic in the air, and do so, all of this without the patient's knowledge. They have no idea what's going on because you're not in the room, but you're really coordinating their care and making sure that the right things are done for them.
Obviously, you've been doing this for some time, and what is it that just, from when you started to now, what is it that just kind of propels you to take on this huge task?
It's really the people that in the different countries, not only in our country or in the people that I meet in the emergency department, but the people that have really enriched my life, and from these different countries, their dedication, their yearning for something better, that really inspires me to want to help them. Even though at this juncture of my career, I could probably just make a career of being here at Stanford, but having the opportunity to work with them and learn from them and be inspired by them, I think, is what gets me up in the morning. How
about a success story?
Yeah, we have plenty of success stories. The success stories that we like to tell about are the people that come in and literally die before you. So if somebody has a fatal dysrhythmia or ventricular fibrillation, they are technically dead, but through the power of using electricity and shocking someone, you can bring them back to life. So we've had several cases of people coming to the emergency department, dying suddenly, and because they're at Stanford, and because we have the equipment to save their life, being brought back to life right then and there. And that's truly amazing. No matter how many times it occurs, you're always amazed by it.
Wow. Well, thank you. Anything else you want to add?
No, thank you for having me on your program.